Oh, my friends, what a story I have to bring you today. The White House absolutely rocked. Overnight, subpoenas launched directly into the heart of Biden's inner sanctum. What does it mean? What are they calling for? What are they asking? And what are they stating? Well, we know who's running the country now. So what's going on exactly with this story in the land of too little, too late, otherwise known as the House of Representatives, otherwise known as we're going to pretend to do something but actually do nothing? But this story has a different plot twist. And there may be good reason why now this is going to spell even further disaster for the Biden administration. And I'll tell you what my take on this entire story is at the very end. But this very interesting breaking news story coming out of the House Oversight Committee, led by James Comer and his not-so-merry band of, men and women who've done so little so far to bring justice to anyone. But digressing for a minute, they've subpoenaed 3 senior White House aides, but they're much more than White House aides. What we come to learn is, they're controlling what James Comer states is just about everything. And that's the story I'm going to bring you here in just 1 minute. All right, my friends, before we get started, I need you to double check. Make sure you're still subscribed to Lisa's channel. Can't tell you how often those check marks tend to go off. Make sure you also have the bell checked to all so you're alerted to upcoming videos. And if you'll click above, subscribe to my channel. Can't tell you how much that means to both of us. But if you want to find both of us, I hope you know by now why we created Restricted Republic. You're seeing all the conservative news get quieter and quieter as they're banned on these major platforms. But we created a bastion of truth for you. No commercials, no interruptions, audience-funded news beholden to no one but our audience. And again, to take advantage of RestrictedRepublic.com, in monthly discount, use discount code INDEPENDENCE. That's $4 a month for 2 years, plus 14 days for free. And the great part is you can cancel any time. We know you won't, but we put that out there so you don't feel you're tied to anything longer than you want to be. Again, RestrictedRepublic.com, discount code INDEPENDENCE, monthly checkout, $4 a month for 2 years. Get there today. But now let's get back to this critically important story. So as you see on your screen, Comer subpoenas White House aides running interference for President Biden amid cognitive decline, which is the ongoing story. The administration's internal operations, which is a non-confrontational way of stating they believe they know who's actually running the White House. Now, why is this critical, you may ask? Well, sit down for this one. It appears some in Washington are now starting to believe that the bumbling, mumbling, stumbling, stammering, and sleeping commander in defense actually isn't the one running the country. At least that's what Comer's stating. I know. Takes him a while to catch up, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But that's really just where this story starts to take hold, because it develops quickly. On Wednesday, Oversight Chair James Comer issued subpoenas to Anthony Bernal, the top aide to First Lady Jill Biden, Annie Tomasini, Deputy Chief of Staff, and Senior Advisor Ashley Williams. This is the inner sanctum of Joe Biden. Described by Axios in their article, the exclusive House, let's get to that article as a matter of fact, in the article titled, Exclusive House Oversight Subpoenas, Top Biden Aides Over His Mental Fitness, we learn quite a bit. As low profile but very influential within the White House, these 3 aides are. The article goes into a bit more detail before we review the actual subpoenas. All 3 are low profile but very influential inside the White House, Biden officials have told Axios. Comer asked for aides to respond by July 17th and requested they sit for a closed-door interviews later this month. He also cited a recent Axios report, appears there on top of this report to be more specific. Top aides shielded Biden from staff but couldn't hide the debate in where Bernal and Tomasini have access to the first family's residence, a situation that the White House resident staff found unusual since political staffers often don't have such access. So the question is why? But everything's changed, of course, after the debate, where the man in front of the curtain made it apparently obvious that, well, there may be somebody behind the curtain. helping Joseph Marionette Biden. I hope you like that. That's genius, isn't it? To maneuver and pretend that, well, he's a real boy, global world leader. It's even hard to say that, isn't it? In a letter sent on Wednesday, Comer highlighted Bernal and Tomasini's unusual access to the residence, noting the White House staff regularly doesn't have that access. According to the House Oversight subpoenas themselves, and you'll see here, subsequent to the president's disastrous debate performance in June, officials in the House of Representatives, the Senate, and White House have voiced concerns about the president's ability to lead the country. Recent reporting has revealed the White House in disarray, and one former Biden aide has said that Annie Tomasini, Ashley Williams, and Anthony Bernal created a protective bubble around President Biden. And the president is staffed so closely that he's lost all independence. Now, how hard is that to believe? It's on the report itself. Mr. Bernal specifically has been identified as having uncharacteristic access to even the president's personal residence, and has taken steps since early in President Biden's term to rope off the president, and we've heard report after report on that. But Comer goes on expressing the committee's concerns that these officials might be among, and I state, the committee is concerned that Mr. Bernal appears to be one of several White House staffers who have taken it upon themselves to run the country. That's a big darn statement now, isn't it? Have taken it upon themselves to run the country while the president cannot. To be clear, the American people did not elect Mr. Bernal and or any White House staffer to do President Biden's job for him. And the committee seeks Mr. Bernal's testimony regarding the matters identified above. Again, I can give you no larger statements, but actually I can. The committee is therefore investigating the scope of Mr. Bernal's responsibilities within the White House, in particular based on the reports discussed above. It appears as though Mr. Bernal has firsthand knowledge of the extent to which President Biden is personally carrying out the duties of the office and whether he is capable of doing so, but yet not reporting the truth to anyone. The committee seeks this information to explore whether the time has come for Congress to revisit potential legislation to, you got it, it's all leading to the 25th Amendment. Now, some might ask, why do they continue to push that? There's national security issues, and there's an election. If we're going to be like the Democrats, all we want to do is win, maintain power and authority. However, if you look over the better interest of this great nation, and you've been following the reports we've been providing to you, even yesterday's report, that President Biden has a team around him that in case of nuclear attack, well, they call them first. That's a big report that puts our national security in jeopardy. So we got to take this a little bit more serious now. The nature and scope of Mr. Bernal's duties have been of interest to the committee. Mr. Bernal was one of several White House employees to enter the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement and attempt to remove boxes of documents months before the supposed discovery of classified materials at the same location. Oh, it appears that that testimony led to this subpoena, because they're connecting a lot of dots, and it also appears there's an insider talking now, isn't there? That's the reason why this may be different than before, and we're going to get there in just a second. Mr. Bernal, about President Biden's mishandling of classified materials and whether the White House led an effort to cover up the president's actions or misled the American people about them. However, the White House has refused to allow Mr. Bernal or any of these folks to testify thus far. In Tomasini's subpoena, the next one we're going to go through, the nature and scope of Ms. Tomasini's duties have been of long interest to the committee. Ms. Tomasini was one of several White House officials, again, to visit the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy before the discovery of the classified materials. It appears there is a very well-oiled machine working to protect the president, as we well know for some time. Indeed, the committee previously saw testimony from Ms. Tomasini about President Biden's mishandling of those classified materials and whether the White House led an effort to cover it up. However, the White House had refused to allow anyone to testify. It appears Comer is getting much closer to the truth now. Tomasini, also extremely close and longtime friend of the Biden family, maintaining the closest relationship with Hunter Biden during the Obama administration. The inner sanctum is tight, but the subpoenas have now flown, sometimes referring to Hunter as her brother and ending emails with LY. I love you. Well, now they seem to have everything in their sights. Comer stated the White House has shielded 3 aides from testifying about President Biden's mishandling of those classified documents, and now we've learned through reports that some aides are also seeking to cover up President Biden's declining cognitive state inside the White House. President Biden is clearly unfit for office, yet his staff are trying to hide the truth from the American people. Key White House staff must come before our committee so we can provide the transparency and accountability that Americans deserve. Keeping in mind now, my friends, things are different than they've been before. We know they've been pursuing Garland and that special counsel interview audio. We know Biden's failing debate performance and subsequently has done nothing to repair the damage. So why are they trying so hard? And why this time, unlike a teenage boy in the back of a movie theater trying to get to second base, might it have a different outcome? Comer states again, I'm issuing subpoenas today for White House staff Anthony Tomasini, Anthony Bernal, and Ashley Williams to appear for depositions. The White House has shielded these 3 key aides from testifying. We've learned through reports that these aides are seeking to cover up. Now, he got the information from somewhere. And that may be why it's different this time. And the answer may be right before your very eyes. It's been published over and over and over again. Biden's staff is miserable. And why are they miserable? If you read deeper in this Axios article, why it matters, they state. Outside pressure for Biden to drop his re-election bid grew wider and louder on the 4th of July, especially from major donors. Doubts also are rising inside the White House. The big picture, everyone is miserable, and senior advisors are a total black hole. A White House official told Axios, even if you're trying to focus on work, nothing is going to break through or get any acknowledgement from the bosses. Everything else feels like Weekend at Bernie's by his inner circle to prop him up. You see, they've given you the answers. A high-ranking Democrat National Committee official told Axios the only thing that can really allay concerns is for the president to demonstrate that he's capable of running his campaign, which we know he can't right now. So remember, it's all about money and power. And this is where things get different. If these staffers find themselves sailing on a sinking ship that will lose all its power, its momentum, they'll flee the ship and leave the captain behind, drowning in his own sea of tears. Their only position is to maintain power. They're miserable. They realize their boy's not going to win next time around. They'll only continue to care about Biden as long as the remainder of the donors remain. Once those donors bail, the water starts to rise, the lights go out, they're under no power, they'll flee that ship. And they'll bury their own captain with the information that Comer's looking for. So don't underestimate for a moment that this time may be very well different, because the person at the helm, which Comer says is not at the helm, is the one they may flee from. And when they do, the only people they'll look to protect are themselves. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justice Knight, signing out.